Welcome to the season finale of season 2 of Curves, Curls, and Crowns. I have to say, I have thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I am so glad to have been a part of this season. And I'm looking forward to this last session, this last episode with my sisters, Coach Dana W. and Katrina. Ladies, we have had a good season, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
I really enjoyed myself too.
Yes, and tonight we're going to be talking about finding love during the pandemic. We talked a lot about relationships, families, parenthood, just post-COVID, pre-COVID, just different things that we've experienced, mental health, beauty, understanding that we're enough. But tonight we're really going to be honing in on that connection piece. So, Coach Dana, can you tell us a little bit about your experience during the pandemic when it comes to love?
Okay, so y'all know I can be really transparent. So last season, I, let the audience know that I was divorced and had just started dating. And so since the last recording, I continue to date. I'm now in a a committed relationship with someone. Yes, your girl done got caught up. But I just wanted to say, dating during the pandemic was different. It was not the same as me dating, of course, when I was younger, prior to getting married, but dating when you have to wear face masks, when you're supposed to be social distancing. So I know a lot of singles ended up flocking to dating apps. And at one time, it used to be a taboo to go on a dating app. People used to be embarrassed, feeling like, maybe I'm ugly. Why can't I find someone? But it is the new popping thing in 2021, 2022. And so my therapist actually recommended that I go on a dating app. And I really give her, the recognition for it, because if it wasn't for her, I probably would have stayed clear from dating apps. I probably went on like 2 or 3 dating apps, and it's a little scary out there, ladies. So you gotta be careful when it comes to dating apps. But just make sure that you are asking the right questions. Make sure before you meet this particular person that you choose to meet up with, you're meeting them in public. You're not meeting anyone in private settings. You're not going to anyone's homes, but you're making sure that there is a big audience, not audience, but a big crowd of people around you, because safety is really important when it comes to dating. So I enjoyed my dating during the pandemic. I know a lot of people are doing virtual dating now. And even though the pandemic is, I don't want to say coming to an end, but a lot of people are practicing more safety precautions, and they're starting to hang with friends more. And so I just want to ask you ladies, how is it different between the singles dating in the pandemic and you married ladies dating in the pandemic?
Oh, wow. So I know for me, it was really relearning my spouse, because there was a piece of it where in the beginning of the pandemic, we both was home, which we've never been able to really do that since we got together. So during that time, it was like, hey, now we get to make breakfast for each other. We get to work out in the morning. We was able to have that intimate time that we didn't get an opportunity to do. However, since the pandemic is still sort of here and now we're back at work, that stuff kind of changed. So for us, it was a challenge to try to pivot. It was like, hey, we got a hint of paradise, and then now we're going back to life as normal. And it was kind of difficult to pivot. So then you have to take into account, because you haven't had any connections outside of your spouse, now you get to talk to other people. So now it's like, okay, now you have to have that open communication, because you're relearning how to engage with other people, especially people of the opposite sex. So we had to learn that open communication, and we had to be able to realize, hey, like, this is something that we like, that we want to carry into now. And this is something that we want to leave in the past. So it was a lot of growing. And the one thing that I learned was, we're all like cell phones. And if anybody know about a cell phone, you know, I can't just put my cell phone up into a power strip and it just gonna, you know, charge. That's not gonna happen. If it does, please let me know because I need that. But it doesn't happen that way. So we need a charger to plug in to make us 100%. So what we've done is realize we're each other charger port. Like God is that power source in the wall that's always there, but I need that connection. And it taught me not just my marriage, but even relationships and friendships and how to grow and develop. So I would say what the pandemic has taught me is literally the importance of those people who are in my circle and how I have to be very intentional with how I spend my time and how I communicate with them.
Absolutely.
I like
and
that.
for us, it gave us a perspective on building. So you have something already established and, you know, you take it for granted that your house is there, but there's still maintenance. And so our marriage underwent a lot of maintenance and upkeeping, remodeling, restructuring, and just kind of getting to know each other on a different level. And I often have said during this season about the communication gap and just how our needs had changed. And we wasn't aware before because we didn't have time to communicate that. It was just life as usual, relationship as usual, you know, reading each other just by knowing each other, just assuming we know what the other person wants. But with the pandemic, you were forced to be in each other's space. You was forced to communicate. You know, you were just there. So we reestablished a lot of things and were able to talk and see what those needs were, you know, present day, what I need today. And so I'm grateful for that. And Coach, you know, I do have kind of like personal little testimonies of online dating in my family that have been successful. So I was thrilled to see some of that play out in real life. It has been a thrill to watch. So I'm excited for you all to experience that.
Thank you. And I think, you know, one of the things you both are seeing, Malara with the communication, having open communication, and then Katrina talking about building. Both of those things are important, not just when you're married, but also when you're dating, learning about each other. And so one of the things I found interesting dating during this pandemic is that it actually gave us the time to ask those real questions, because we spent a lot of time talking on the phone. And, you know, we didn't just dive into a relationship, but we had to build, taking different steps and learning each other and learning how to date. So it was really exciting and interesting, but I'm still learning him. Mm-hmm. I think right now there's so many love apps out there. So ladies, there's this app called Pair. And I probably should be getting a sponsored ad for this. But there's this app called Pair that really allows you to ask questions or answer questions with your significant other, your boyfriend, your husband, whoever you're dating at the moment. It gives you quizzes. It asks those tough questions about sex, about family, about morals and goals. I have really enjoyed it. And so my significant other, he has been open in answering these questions with me. You know, a lot of guys sometimes don't like doing things like that. So I actually feel like it's really important that you find your match when it comes to things like this, that you are finding somebody who's been willing and able to be open with you, being able to share their trauma stories and being able to express what makes you happy. I want to talk about this really quick. And I want to ask you this question because I often talk about this to him. Do you think it's okay to teach someone how to love you? Katrina, I want to start with you.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think it is, because it takes the guessing part out, and you know, there's going to be mistakes. And it is very important, especially if a woman knows herself. If you know what makes you tick, if you know what makes you happy, go ahead and help the brother out. Give him some insight on who you are and what works for you. Don't put all the pressure on him. You know, give him that information and give him the tools that he needs to help, you know, make the relationship successful. So it is important to do that. I don't see anything wrong with that. You know, and then there is fun and learning and growing and, you know, all of that good stuff. But if you can give him the foundation, you can give him a leg up, why not?
Like it. We do got to take a commercial, so we'll be right back. But Malara, you are not getting away from this this question. So we are going to jump back to Malara when we come back right after this.
LLC, the home of Malira Green, your confidence coach. Malira Green is a licensed clinical social worker who serves as a psychotherapist, confidence coach, Reiki master, and transformative speaker. She is striving to provide the world with preventative services to lower the number of individuals in mental health facilities while helping individuals grow from a caterpillar to a butterfly. She is ready to help the humans of the world find their best selves. Be sure to check out www.maliratransforms.com so that Malira can begin to transform with you.
It was a series of events that led me to this walk of becoming a certified health and life coach. I had lost both of my parents within a 2-year window. I had been engaged, which led to domestic violence and me having to call off the wedding within 2 weeks of the date of marriage. And then, after being married for 12 years, it suddenly ended in divorce. That was my life. But I decided that I was no longer going to be a victim of pain. I was ready to transform my pain into my purpose. And so I want to teach you how to walk in your purpose too. I'm Coach Dana W., and I am your elevator.
All right, welcome back to Curves, Curls, and Crowns. And before we took a break, I asked the question, is it okay to teach someone how to love you? And Katrina gave her answer. She said, absolutely, yes. Malira, what do you say?
I say that it is a must. A lot of arguments stem from the fact that unmet expectations is there. We all come into a relationship expecting something. However, if you don't communicate what that expectation is, then how is that person going to meet that expectation? So I feel that it is very important and imperative for you to say, like, hey, this is how I need to be loved. Moment of transparency, something that the pandemic did for me and my marriage. The reason why communication is so important is because, again, once I went back into the office space, it's a different world. So now it's like, okay, I had all this time with my husband and it was just me and him. And now it's me and a bunch of other people. So it was all of this energy that was going on. So I had to learn how to come home and kind of express to my husband, like, hey, you know, this kind of showed up on the outside world that I like. And I don't want it from them. I want it from you. I didn't know that that even existed. So as my expectations began to change, I had to communicate those expectations. So now my husband knows how I desire for him to show up. And I know how he desires me to show up. Because you can be married all day long, but each season is going to come with not a person is becoming different or anything like that, but you're a totally different person. So the way that I felt loved if you bought me a teddy bear, I may feel loved now if you buy me a plant instead of a teddy bear, because my mindset's a little different. So I totally believe that in order for somebody to actually really love you the way that you want them to, then you got to communicate that expectation.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Katrina, you want to say something?
Yeah, because I think a lot of women too, because they get resentful, because they assume he should know. Yeah. And they feel away because he does not know that you would prefer perfume over flowers, like you're thinking, don't bring me any more flowers, but you never communicated that. Mm-hmm. And so you'll feel that, but you didn't express that to him, so he doesn't know. Right. So it's just wise, and it's the adult thing to do and mature in a relationship to communicate that. Let him know, baby, in this season, we're not doing the roses. I would prefer this, and it's okay.
Right. I think the other thing is just being flexible. Like Laura mentioned, the changes with seasons. And so both parties do require for you to be flexible in a relationship, being able to change and to adapt, understanding, especially for our new couples that's out there, understanding that just because you are coming from old relationships or you're so used to doing things a certain way does not mean that your new partner is wrong in the way that they show love to you. Right. And that's something I had to learn from myself. Like, I'm so used to this, I'm so used to that, but that does not make me right. So understand I have to be flexible too, and ask him, how can I love you? How can I show more respect to you? How can I make sure that you're happy in this relationship? Because we as women, we do feel like we have like this entitlement issue sometimes, like, oh, I'm the woman, so I'm supposed to be happy in a relationship. Forget how the man feels. And that is absolutely the wrong attitude to have.
It absolutely is. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to like, we're really talking about that perception, like what is the perception of love? Mm-hmm. And we're quick to say that love is an action word, but I'm here to tell you love is a belief system, it's a choice. Either you choose to show up lovingly or you don't. And if you believe that you are lovable, then you're going to let that person love you. But if your belief system is telling you that you're not valuable, that you're not lovable, that you're not worth it, you're invisible, then guess what? You're going to be loving your significant other with a whole bunch of barriers. So it's not going to be authentic. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the love that we have is because in our minds, mentally, we don't feel like we deserve it. So now we're very insecure. We're very jealous or envious of other relationships that person may have. You know, we don't allow for that person just to flow freely. So one thing I will say that the pandemic actually really did was made people sit with themselves. Like a part of a relationship starts with you. Like you have to have a healthy relationship with yourself in order to have a healthy relationship with someone else. So Coach Dana, I have a really great question for you. So with you being a health coach, a lot of the things that you deal with is people who deal with really intense emotions that end up turning out in emotional eating or other different habits. How do you help a person prepare themselves to be in a relationship with someone, especially during the pandemic?
Right. So I do a lot of talking about self-worth and about self-esteem, self-confidence, because like you said, that healthy relationship does start with you. So being a coach, I'm not just working with couples, but I also work with families, with parents, and also their children. And I've understood that love is universal. And it's also the way it's universal is we love our boyfriends, our husbands differently, but we should love our children the same too. And the reason why I say that is because love languages, right? Understanding that love languages, our children need affirmation just the same way our spouses or our significant other might need affirmations. The gift of receiving acts of service. You think about those love languages, right? And so when it goes back to teaching someone, how do you get in a healthy relationship, especially after you have just been freed from a toxic relationship, is one, you focus on yourself, your healing, your self-healing, your heart. Because we have to understand that sometimes some of us have gone through emotional abuse. Our hearts have been beaten up. And when you jump from relationship to relationship, those past traumas are building up on top of each other, and we carry it forward to those new relationships. So we treat our new partners wrong. You talked about jealousy earlier. And there's some couples who are jealous of each other because they are not happy with themselves. They don't have a healthy relationship with themselves. So they might see their significant other being happy, meeting their goals physically, emotionally, or even in the workplace. And they're looking from the outside like, man, I wish I could do that. Instead of looking at them as a partner, this is my life partner. Yeah. And I can have a healthy relationship with them. I can praise and celebrate their success because this is someone that God selected for me to walk with. Maybe not married, so it might be just for that season, but being able to enjoy every single day. Mm-hmm. And I can be happy for you because I'm happy for myself. So that's what I would say.
Oh, that's powerful. Katrina, how can we incorporate beauty into relationships? Like having that mindset of like, not just the external beauty, but internal beauty when it comes to building those healthy relationships? Well,
the first thing is to know that who loves you and why you're beautiful, because we are made, by God's hand. And that's something I always say. As scripture, we're beautifully, wonderfully made. It all goes back to knowing who you are, receiving his love, his grace, his mercy for you, understanding that you are of value, that you are a special creature, and that way, when you can receive that, you can embrace that, you can reciprocate that to another person, you can receive it from another person. It's not easy if you don't feel the love that your master is giving you. When you don't feel value, you don't feel worth, you don't feel love, you can't really give it. So if you feel bad about yourself, you don't feel worth, you can't give that. So I would always say, start receiving God's love. Get to know him. Get to receive what he's given to us freely, that he's called you his own. He made you, with his very hand, with his breath. Receive his love. Get to embrace that. And then that way you can freely give it to someone else. It's a beautiful, love is so amazing. It is so freeing. It is so life altering. To have agape love in your life, it's nothing that can compare to it. It just blows your mind. It heals, it soothes, it comforts, it frees, it gives you courage. It just does everything you need in life. Love is what we need. It just is what we need.
Yeah, I love that.
Love is what we need. Well, we have to go to a commercial break, everybody. But when we come back, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into those 5 love languages. So when we return back, we'll go ahead and talk about that. So we'll be back real soon. Welcome back to Curves, Curls, and Crowns. Y'all listen, this is the season finale. We have made it. And again, we're going to be talking about 5 love languages. Why? Because a lot of times in relationships, it's really not about you guys not communicating, but sometimes it has all to do with if I'm not speaking your love language, then I'm not going to be able to know that you really love me. So for example, if my love language is words of affirmation, but my significant other love language is quality time, I can be telling him how much I love him, but if I'm not spending time with him, he's not going to feel love, and vice versa. He can be in my space all the time, but if I don't hear it out of his mouth to say, baby, I love you, then I don't feel it. So Dana, why do you think those love languages is important for us to understand, especially with being in a relationship during the pandemic?
We talked about communication. Those love languages, key word is language. So it's a form of communication. It's letting someone know how to love me, how to let me know that I'm needed and wanted. And so sometimes we dismiss people. They communicate with us and say, hey, can you just tell me I love you a little bit more? And it's like, why? Why do I need to tell you that when I'm showing you that? But if you actually listen to that person, they're telling you, I need to hear those words because you showing it is good and I appreciate it. But you saying it makes me feel so much better. And so sometimes we have to put our pride to the side. We don't like people telling us what to do. But when it comes to a relationship, it's about compromising. And if I need to compromise and put my pride to the side because you said you like gifts, and I feel like you the man, you should be giving me gifts. But if that's something you need to make you feel loved, okay, I'll do it. I might buy you a card, and I promise you, they'll be happy just getting that card. So the love languages and being able to understand it in the pandemic, because we're not seeing our significant other as we was before the pandemic. We're not talking to them as much, but we can still show love in so many different ways. That's why it's important.
Yeah,
absolutely. And for those of you who may be out there, like, what are the love languages? It is quality time, words of affirmation, giving and receiving gifts. We have physical touch. And then there's one more I know I'm missing. What's the last one? Huh?
Isn't it acts of service?
Yeah, and then the acts of service. So when we're looking, that's your love language. So tell people, what is the acts of service? Because again, sometimes the other ones are so easy because it's in the name. But when people say acts of service, they don't really understand what that is. So Katrina, how can people out there show their significant other whose love language is acts of service that they love them?
Well, for me, love is not what you say. It is exactly what you do. Love to me is never what comes out of your mouth. It is only what I see you do. So acts of service for me is if you make the bed, if you just doing something, if I see your hands moving, if you bring something, if you anything for me is an act of service. That's love to me. Put gas in the car, fix a pillow on the couch when you get up. That's act of service. That's showing me I love you. And I receive it as love. It touches my heart as if you would have gave me 1,000,000 roses. That's just what it means to me. So that's what act of service is.
That's good. Malara, I wanted to say, I think sometimes we have to understand, if you ever did like a personality test, and sometimes those personality tests, they change based on your experiences and where you are in life. I think that's the same way with love languages too, because I found that my love language has changed so much. And when people ask me that question, I say all of them. They're like, what's your love language? All of them. So what do you have to say about that for a person who really don't know what their love language is, and they're just like targeting, like, look, I'll take them all for real.
Absolutely. So I'm going to actually jump into our healing moment for this episode, because I want people to understand that the only way that you can really understand your love languages is if you utilize the resources that's available to you. So simply, you can just go to Google. And when you go into Google, just type in love language quiz. It's going to take you to a website of the creator of the love languages. And you get to pick different categories, because sometimes your love language can be different in a relationship that is actually intimate compared to a friendship. And then it also asks about what is your anger language, which is a whole nother conversation for another day. But my healing moment for you is find out what your love language is. And if you don't actually want a test to tell you, a lot of times I tell people your love language comes from two different areas. The first area is off of an example. If your parents loved you in a certain language, so let's say your parents' language was giving you gifts all the time. So you may now expect those gifts to be given. Or it could be the opposite. You're trying to replace something that you didn't get that you feel is important. So for example, if you grew up in a household where they did not validate the things that you did, now your love language may be words of affirmation. I need to hear that I'm special because I never heard it. So sometimes just sitting back during this healing moment to ask, how do I really want people to show up? Is it based off of them affirming me? Is it based off of them spending time with me? Is it physical touch, a hug, or being held? Is it actually acts of service where you actually do what you say that you feel about me? Or what are the different languages that I'm speaking? So today I'm just encouraging you to sit with yourself and ask yourself, how do I tend to show people love? The key to this is our love language is genuinely how we show those around them or around us that we love them. If anybody know Malara, you get a bunch of words of affirmations because that's my love language. But now I get to understand that the same way that's my language, the people I'm talking to, they have a language as well.
Awesome.
I love it. Thank you so much, Malara, for that healing moment. And I hope everyone goes out to find out what their love language is. And so that's going to wrap up our last and final episode for season 2. But make sure you come back and you follow us on our Facebook group page. You can find us Curves, Curls, and Crowns on Facebook. And make sure you download the Mogul app. You all take care.
Bye.